Could you speak about the SC/ST reserve promotions bill which has been stopped in the Rajya Sabha?
Reservations for promotions for the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. A bill has been introduced in Parliament. One has to go into the background about why this bill has been introduced in Parliament. In Uttar Pradesh, they wanted to give reservations from promotions for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in the state government in Uttar Pradesh. The case was referred to the Supreme Court. In Supreme Court, in their judgment, they said, we need to define what do you mean by backwardness, number one. Two, we need to have quantifiable data. Supreme Court in their judgment said, we do not have quantifiable evidence, quantifiable data of saying, how many people of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes are there in central services and public services. Mayawati, in the last session of the Parliament, which was washed out, raised, saying that, in that particular session, promotion for the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes should be introduced in the Parliament. Because, the Supreme Court, struck down promotion for the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes and promotion, Mayawati, who was a Rajya Sabha member, said, this bill should be introduced in that Parliament. And several political parties, surprisingly, Samajwadi Party, which came into power on the basis of social justice agenda in Uttar Pradesh, they have been opposing. What is their opposition to it? Their opposition to it, if you want to talk about promotion for the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, the argument of Mulayam Singh Yadav is juniors are going to be becoming seniors. He has put it in a very crude form, saying juniors are going to become senior. One has to look at the entire issue from a historical standpoint. Reservations have been there in this country from 1950 for the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes. The data which indicates, the data which has been placed in the Parliament, the data of the Planning Commission and the data of the Government of India clearly indicates till 2011, we have the data also has been placed in Parliament, till 2011, only in the lower cadres of reservations, such as the category of peons, sweepers, scavengers, people who are doing menial work, only there so reservations have been filled. But if you look at in this country now, among the 145 chief secretaries who are there holding senior positions, there is not even a single scheduled caste as of today, which is a clear indication that we have not been implementing reservations. The data which has been compiled from 1950 onwards very clearly indicates. Of course, in the 1950s and 60s we did not even have many qualified people in terms of implementation of in civil services or in group 1 services. Clearly indicates from 1971 onwards, only in terms of barely, right now even the data indicates barely that 5% of class 1 services out of 15% for the scheduled castes, and out of the scheduled tribes only 1% even now. The data was also placed in the Parliament when Parliament was introducing this bill. There is quantifiable data. Unfortunately, in the Supreme Court, we did not argue. The government did not represent very well. The government, if it has represented very well, saying that the Planning Commission data which we have, the government data which we have collected clearly indicates the reservation as the principle in this country has not been effectively implemented. Now, there is another issue they are trying to raise about, particularly Samajwadi Party is raising, saying that well, if we are talking about reservation, it should also be given to OBCs. We are saying even OBCs prepare the data. Prepare the data. If they deserve to be promoted, they should also be promoted. But that's how they should look at the issue. But he's not looking at that issue. They are simply saying merit will get affected in this country. There are many of them in this country arguing once we're going to be having reservation for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in promotions, merit will get affected. I am one of those people who say my foot merit. Who has to decide merit? Who is having merit in this country? If the merit is there in this country in terms of Human Development Index, why does India start 127 in Human Development Index? 60 years you have been ruling public sector. 60 years you have been ruling laboratories. 60 years you have been the helm of education. 60 years you have been there in central services. Why is India backward? Why do we stand? Corruption index, India stands again 120. There is a corruption in hunger index, India stands 67. There is more hunger in this country than in Bangladesh. Who is responsible for it? You have been ruling this country. We do not have the right to talk about. And I would like to, the entire discourse relating to SC/ST in this country has to be altogether different. They are using the word quota. To my mind, it is obnoxious. It is objectionable. They cannot use the word quota. I am talking about its representation. I would not like to use the word even reservations. If the Supreme Court of America, a capitalist country like America, goes out of the way to get a black judge to sit on the Supreme Court, so that the judgments which are given can be looked at it from a plural dimension, can be looked at it from a different kind of a dimension. Why we are saying we need to have reservation? In policy making, in planning, we need to have in higher echelons of power. We would like to have the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, so that planning process can be done properly in this country. As it is, we know that though there is for money meant for in terms of budget allocation for SCs and STs, now it has not been implemented. Why is it not implemented? The upper castes have been conspiring to see that that money is not implemented. Today, after 60 years, we are talking about that we must have some kind of a constitutional status, some kind of a statutory status for SC/ST subplan. That too only in Andhra Pradesh. The rest of the country is not talking about SC/ST subplan should have statutory status. All over the country, we know the way reservations were not been implemented. For the last 50 years in this country, no reservations have been implemented. The data is very, very clear. Parliament, they've clearly given the data saying that how many people are occupying, what kind of position. Who should rule this country? Majority people are going to rule this country, or the minority people are going to be ruling this country? Are the majority people going to be laying down a policy for this country? The majority people should be there in the planning commission. Who are the majority? Scheduled castes and scheduled tribes and OBCs. It does not happen anywhere in the world. It is only happening in this country. So in that kind of a context, we are talking about the fact that who prepares the confidential report? An upper caste, a dominant caste prepares the confidential report of a scheduled caste. He is not given an important position to work, whether in the banking sector, the public sector, and the scientific sector, or industrial sector. He is not given, he is discriminated from the day he joins. His confidential reports are ruined, damaged, and they say he is inefficient to work, or she is inefficient to work, and on the basis of that we have been not getting promotion. Once you join, the way you get a promotion only on the basis of your confidential report. All the confidential reports are written by upper caste. They are destroyed. That is why we are trying to talk about. And the Constitution talks about it. There is a constitutional provision. That is where we need to go about. This bill has to be passed in Parliament. No question of If this bill is not going to be passed in Parliament, this discrimination will continue. Yes, if OBCs also the data indicates, then we need to have OBCs also reservation and also promotional quota. And in fact, I go a step further. Minorities also should be given. According to the Sachar Committee report, the status of the minorities is as bad, both economically, socially, and culturally. When are we going to get all these people into the mainstream? We've got to look at these issues of representation in this country from a holistic dimension, from a development kind of a standpoint. If 60% of the people are marginalized, 60% of the people do not have access to education, access to industry. Now if you look at when we are talking about reservations for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, there's so much of opposition is there. Who are the people? How was for Kingfisher 37 banks have given loans. What about non-performing assets in India? It's running into crores and crores of rupees. Who has been taking money for these kind of industries? Where did these people get money to establish special economic zones? Where did these people get money to establish any kind of an industry? Whether it is GVK, whether it is Jindal, whether it is Tatas or Birla. The way they are plundering The resources are the people of this country. 100 people of this country control 25% of the GDP. 15 companies in this country are controlling the entire economy of this country, beginning from Reliance, Tata, Birla, Jindal, Vedanta, Wipro, Infosys. These are the people who are controlling the entire economy of this country. I go a step further and say that when a private sector is being established, private sector is given resources free, land is given free, water is given free, power is given free. They are only investing 5% of their resources. 90%, 95% is given by the financial sector, the banking sector in this country. No one is establishing a Reliance or Vedanta, Jindal is not establishing any industry with their money. It is being established with the people's money. It is the banking sector, it is the financial sector of this country which is supporting them. In addition to that, they are given a tax holiday. So much subsidy we are giving them. And why is this country opposing reservations? Why is this entire industrial sector, the powerful sector, opposing? When we are giving money for them to establish a private sector or a private bank, because it is the people's resource, it is the people's land, it is the people's money, we are giving them a tax holiday. There must be reservations also in the private sector. In a capitalist country like America, there is reservation. There is reservation there. There is something called affirmative action. 15% of the blacks are brought into the mainstream of society. It's a capitalist country. India is not a capitalist country. Indian constitution talks about social welfare. Indian constitution talks about socialism. We have not done away with socialism from the Indian constitution. As a part of socialism, as part of social justice, as part of affirmative action, we need to implement reservations for promotion for the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Why are we talking about reservation in this country? The kind of inequality which exists in this country does not exist anywhere in the world. Inequality in terms of education. There are panchayat schools, there are government schools, there are national schools, there are central schools, there are international schools. There are students who go in an AC coach, AC toilet, AC classroom, AC bathroom. There are students if there is a school, there is no building. If there is a building, there is no chalk piece. If there is a chalk piece, there is no board. If there is a board, there is no school teacher. Does this exist anywhere in the world? Does it exist in Europe, which is practicing capitalism? India is not practicing capitalism. It is not a capitalist country, or at least our constitution talks about socialism. In America, there is something called a neighborhood school. Every student is given equal education, equal syllabus. Does that exist in our country? There are different kinds of languages which exist in this country, different kinds of teaching goes on. Inequality built into education in this country. Provide them, every child, a quality education. Every child must go to the same school. We grow in a totally unequal environment. Inequality is practiced. When so much of inequality is practiced, when we want to bring them to some kind of a mainstream, there's so much of opposition which is there in this country. The entire media in this country is against reservations because the entire media is dominated by the upper caste forces. They do not believe in socialism, they do not believe in social justice, they don't believe in equality. So in terms of when we are talking about reservations and promotions, again one has to look at it from the standpoint of what kind of a society we are living in, what kind of inequality which is being practiced in education, particularly in school education. What a shame for this country. We take about 60 years to bring about right to education bill in 2010. Our constitution talks about right to education, but we did not bring about right to education bill in 1950. If only right to education bill has come into existence in 1950, every child can go to the same school. Since 1950 is the last 60 years, perhaps we'd have been a good nation. Even after bringing about the legislation in 2010, right to education, not a single school all over the country are implementing this bill. Everyone is flouting. Every school is saying, we cannot be taking these children who come from a different kind of a social background and economic background. We cannot teach that. Law is there in this country. Legislation in this case is there in this country. Every law is violated in this country. Every legislation is violated in this country. One of the finest constitutions we have given by Dr. Ambedkar. That constitution is violated. Every word of the Indian constitution is violated in this country. That is why this kind of inequality is there. That is the kind of a war which is going on. Some kind of a mini civil war going on in rural hinterland in this country. And if we are not going to bring about that kind of equality in various sectors, India is heading for a major disaster.